You're listening to the Technology for Mindfulness podcast, episode 73, hosted by me, Robert Plotkin. Today I'm going to be speaking with Jeremy Edge, founder of escapingthe.com, a counseling practice for those struggling with an internet addiction or problematic screen use. Jeremy helps his clients strengthen relationships, manage stress, stop problematic screen use, and improve tech life balance. You can find out more about Jeremy at escapingthe.com. I'm extremely pleased to welcome Jeremy Edge to the Technology for Mindfulness podcast. Hi, Jeremy, and welcome to the Technology for Mindfulness podcast.
Hi, Robert. How's it going?
It's going great. It's going great. I think our listeners are really going to get a lot out of what you have to say from your personal experience and how you help people. So I think it would be really helpful if you could start by letting people know what motivated you to work with people on video game addiction?
What started it for me was a couple of different avenues, but the primary reason was my own struggle with gaming addiction. When I was an adult, I completed my counseling program, and you have to complete 3,000 hours of face-to-face counseling to be a fully licensed counselor. Well, during that time, I spent around the same amount of time, 3,000 hours gaming, so around 4 months of doing nothing but gaming. This is over 5 years, so it was a spread long period of time. But it was a problem. Looking at the DSM-5 in the back of the DSM under internet gaming disorder, there's 9 criteria for this behavior addiction. And I'm at 8 of the 9 consistently for over a year. And so it was a big problem, very much of a focus in my life, not adding any value to my life overall. When I started to step away from that, I started to see more of my clients as well. That was a problem for them as well. I was seeing clients who are like teenagers, young adults, and 2 of the big things were gaming and pornography. And so I knew it was an issue in my own life. I saw that it was an issue in some other people's lives outside of counseling. And then in the therapy room, the more we dug, it's like, oh, this is the reason you're failing your grades, or your grades are dropping, or you're insecure. It sounds like there's a lot of gaming involved. Sounds like your relationship with your wife or spouse is not going so well because of pornography. So that was kind of a focus where I started to see, look, this is a huge issue that not really anyone's talking about, specifically like addressing just that. And so I wanted to start a practice that was going to be devoted strictly to gaming and pornography, social media, anything within the online world.
Yeah, you mentioned 8 of the 9 criteria. We don't need to go through all of them, but I'm curious to know maybe what some of them are in particular, so that if there's people out there who are gaming a lot, don't think it's a problem, or maybe are on the edge or wondering whether it is or isn't, I'd suspect that knowing what some of the diagnostic criteria are might help people get a better sense of whether what they're doing is really a problem.
Right. No, and that's a good point. The overall consensus I would look at is to zoom out with one question is it adding value to your life? So that's a really one big one. But the specific criteria is preoccupation with games. So if they're thinking about games a lot, if they are not able to focus with their school or career, then that's something that they're worried that could be an issue. If there's a withdrawal, so if they are not able to play the game, they are frustrated, irritable, angry, upset, depressed when they're not able to play the games, that's another sign. So tolerance is built up whenever you spend half an hour gaming, then an hour, 2 hours, you increase your time gaming to try to get that same level of excitement that you started off when you first started a game. So again, it's just the amount of time is increased over time. Another criteria or a symptom is you try to stop gaming, but you can't. You're unable to kind of cater it. You're unable to control that time. You say, okay, look, this is an issue for me. My grades are failing. My career is not where it wants to be, so I'm going to stop. But then you go back to it. Another symptom is escape. So you use this to escape. This is a big common theme for any behavior addiction or substance addiction, for that matter, where you're trying to get away from an issue with the relationship, or something internal that's really you're struggling with, maybe some trauma, whatever it may be. But gaming, for example, or porn can be a lot of people can go to that to try to escape from the bad things going on in their life. If they are jeopardizing their work or their school, that can also be another sign that this is a big issue. So those are some of the criteria. There's 8 of them as well. Anyone can go on my website as well, and there's a free quiz under problematic screen use where they're able to kind of check that out, and kind of just answer a few questions, and that can be a good indicator if that's an issue for you. And I base it off of, it's the same questions off of the DSM.
Okay, that's super helpful. And
Yeah.
we'll be giving everyone links to your website. Maybe just mention it now as well. Where
Yeah.
can people go?
I will be changing the name, but if you go to escapingthe.com, then /screen use, you should be able to find that piece. It's a quiz there, and I can link that. We can have a link in the thing, but it's escapingthe.com /screen use.
Perfect. And, I assume that this is something where things lie on a continuum. People can fit one or more, fewer or more of these criteria. And even within each one, there probably are degrees of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so what would you suggest to people in terms of how to use this on their own? Obviously can go to a professional for guidance, but what would you suggest to people, let's say, if they have taken this first step of thinking about some of the criteria and they think, there are some of these that apply to me.
Mm-hmm.
What would you start saying? What would you say to people if they're starting to have that realization and they are starting to recognize that this is a problem to some extent for them?
I would just encourage them just to talk to someone they trust about it. It doesn't have to be a counselor. It doesn't have to be a mental health professional, but just talk to someone they love and trust and who loves and trusts them. Like, hey, I took this quiz and what do you think about it, right? Either their spouse or a friend. Like, do you notice this? Do you think this is an issue? And trying to get maybe some feedback. Outside of that conversation, it could be good to just look at, okay, so I have a preoccupation with games. I focus on my games when I'm at work. On my free time, I plan when I can go game. Let me, like, what's up with that? Like, is that something that is, something that I want to change? Is that something that is adding value to my life? Is that an issue? So it can be a starting point to maybe look more at someone's gaming time, for example, and see, okay, maybe this has gone to an issue, a problematic state, problematic place. Maybe it's not a full-blown addiction, but maybe it is kind of an issue where I need to kind of address some things. Maybe I need to put some boundaries where I can still game, but maybe not as long as I have been. Maybe, okay, I'm just going to stick it to an hour a day period, and that can be a good parameter. It can be a good starting block for conversations with others, for yourself, of what you can do moving forward to be healthier, if it is a problem for you.
Yeah, that's really super helpful. And, I wonder, both from your own personal experience and from working with your clients, because you are a licensed counselor, what do you find are some of the real consequences of this? I might imagine some people, let's say, who are gamers listening to this and thinking, okay, maybe I'm gaming more than I should. It's cutting into my productivity, but it's really not that big of a deal. What's the harm? What's the real? I wonder what you've seen, and maybe you could give some of the more moderate to the more extreme negative consequences of this to help people become more attuned to, how serious it can be.
Yeah. So honestly, it's a continuum. Like I think you said that word. It's really on a spectrum where you can have a gamer be very healthy and make a lot of money and make a profession of gaming, either be a streamer or be on a professional esports team, or it can be a full-blown addiction where it's a problem where they're not able to function, or it can be somewhere in the middle. It could be a fun hobby where they're able to hang out with their friends sometimes. Maybe it's a little bit more than that, where they're spending more time than they want to. Their relationships are strained with their families. So it really can depend on the person. If it's kind of in the middle where, okay, yes, I'm spending time online, I'm hanging out with my friends, it's really helping me in life, then that can be a good thing. That can be a positive thing. If you see it kind of bleed into other areas where it is not a good thing, where you feel like there are negative consequences because of this activity, then that's just something to address. It's not something like, okay, you have an addiction, this is a problem for you, but just, okay, maybe, like you feel yourself, for another example of going to the bar too much, or, okay, maybe I'm drinking, I notice I'm taking, maybe 2 beers or 3 beers a night instead of the one I used to have, right? So if you see that time increasing, or you see that activity increasing, and then seeing negative consequences for it, it's just something to address. There are a lot of people, over 64% of Americans play video games. And so there are a lot of people who can game in a healthy way. It's a hobby, it's a pastime that can bring people together. There's a Nintendo Switch commercial, I think maybe for the Super Bowl or something, recently, where it brought this father and daughter together to hang out at the end of the day, and it was fun. And that's a good example of what can happen with gaming. If it's an isolating experience where you are just by yourself in gaming, and yes, you're talking to friends online, that can be okay. If you are focusing more so on the game where, okay, your friends are done, but you're still gaming and you want to kind of go up and level your character up or get your rank up or whatever, and that's kind of your main focus, not the social interaction piece, then that could be something of, okay, this is super fun, but where's the real benefit to this? If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think you're asking people to pay attention to what their experience is like, what the consequences are for them. It sounds like aspects of practicing mindfulness in a way that you're paying attention to what you did mention regret maybe being a symptom that you should pay attention to. If you are playing the game, maybe you feel good while you're doing it, but afterwards you feel regret. If you notice that regret, that might be a warning flag for you. And we've mentioned a lot on the podcast in relation to other types of online activity, which we know so much of what happens online, whether it's gaming, videos, even ads that are attractive, they can give you a positive feeling in the moment. And then sometimes they'll lead to regret later about the fact that I engaged in this or I engaged in it too much. I wonder if, with your clients, do you provide any guidance on practices that are specifically mindfulness based? And how does that work?
Yeah, so if the client comes to me and saying, okay, they wanted to have more of a mindful tech use, or they want to be more mindful, we work on mindfulness kind of techniques in general. So helping them be just aware of their surroundings, being aware of their breathing can be a really helpful thing. It's good to be aware of kind of what your day is like. And so we can talk about if you have certain goals you have for that day, to be aware of, okay, so you could be tempted, you have a gap of an hour here to play some games. Well, just be aware that could lead into more games if you're not careful. So be aware of the time, be mindful of your time, be mindful of the responsibilities that you have for that day, for the week that you want to complete. And again, it's okay to have a break. It's okay to chill and relax at the end of the day, but to still continue to do your work and do your stuff and responsibilities throughout the week as well. So I just try to help encourage them to be just mindful of kind of what their responsibilities and what they want to do throughout the day, but also be mindful of, okay, their stress levels are really high. Look, I do need to chill and relax for a little bit. So it can be okay to be mindful of your needs, of what you need as well.
That's super, super helpful. And I know you've mentioned a couple of things that you suggest to people, both individually and with others. I'm always very interested in, how we can engage with the other people in our lives, family members, friends, work colleagues, because so much of this is really hard to work on your own. Although there are things we can all do individually. Regardless of what the issue is, video games, messaging, working, which is facilitated by availability of devices, whatever the issue happens to be, we can really get a lot of support from people around us. Can you talk a little bit about that? First, I'm sure the support you give to people as a professional can be really helpful. Maybe you can speak to what some of the benefits are of that to people out there. And maybe, ways in which they can get support from the other people in their lives.
Sure. One of the biggest things I see, my clients are a lot of teenagers. A lot of parents come to me saying kids are spending too much time playing video games. So one of the biggest things that I encourage is to have just a healthy conversation and relationship talking about their gaming, rather than demonizing it and saying so-and-so is playing so much Fortnite, it's horrible, it's rotting their brain. Then that's just going to have a huge chasm where they're not going to be able to talk about it, and it's not going to be a healthy relationship in talking about technology. Okay, you need to stop gaming to do your homework. If that is the base of the relationship of if mom knows that she hates Fortnite, she hates you playing it, then it's just going to be a huge battle. However, if there is a place where that relationship can be a mentor relationship and a supportive relationship where the basis is the mom comes to the kid and say, tell me about Fortnite. What do you like about it? Show me how you play it. What is that your character? Oh, cool. That's a fun skin. Tell me about it. Mm-hmm. If you're able to come at it from a place of curiosity and exploring that world, that your son or your family member's gaming world, whatever that is, then that can really be a huge window into, for one, understanding your child, and then have a huge window of conversation. Because now the kids can say, oh, mom kind of wants to hear why I like this so much. And she can hear your passion. She can hear why you get so excited about playing this game or these games. So I think a big piece is helping conversations happen of just healthy, or just helping understand someone's gaming time, on use, online use as well. And then from there, this sounds really cool, and you're able to spend a lot of time and hang out with friends. This is really cool. However, and I want you to enjoy this, let's make sure that we're able to complete our other responsibilities too. So when you come at it from a place of looking at the relationship first, I think that can really help in having positive screen use moving forward. I hope that helped kind of answer.
Yeah, it does. And it's a good reminder for all of us. Look, for adults too, we know that none of us responds well when the only thing we're hearing from someone else about our behavior is criticism, even if it's valid. You know, it's just a natural psychological defense, right? Someone comes at me to say what you're doing is bad and wrong. I'm going to be more likely to have my defenses go up and not be open to maybe whatever truth might be in what they're saying.
Right. And so that's the first thing, one of the first things I do in my sessions is try to, for one, understand what game they're playing, what they like about it, talk about their character, talk about their achievements and all that, and try to just relate to that, because there's a lot of passion, a lot of excitement in gamers, because there's so much problem solving, so much things to explore, so much fun that can be had. And it can be an isolating experience if everyone around that person is like, oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. So one thing I try to do is just to normalize, look, this is fun. This is really cool. You've worked a lot on this. You spent a lot of time on these. The games I used to play, I was really proud of the rank I got to. So it's, for one, being able to just relate. It's like, that's really cool. Let's talk about your life though. What else is going on? Tell me, let's go to the next level. Once that relationship is built, then we talk about, look, where do you want to be at? Your life is here, gaming is here. Where do you want to be at? You want to be getting into a good college. You want to go to whatever school. You want to have good grades now. Well, let's talk about maybe what's going on with gaming that's keeping that from happening. So part of that is a counseling theory called motivational interviewing, where it's helping someone get from a place of complacency to a place of movement and action. Rolling with resistance of this, seems like, you said you wanted to stop gaming at 9 o'clock last night, but you gamed till 9:30 and 10. What's going on there? Let's talk about it. What it looked like if you went back and started to cut back down to 9:15, maybe not 9:15, and then to go from there and help them work on it and achieve goals that are practical and they help build up their confidence, and then to be able to achieve more and more goals moving forward. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And you're working with motivations that the person already has or shares, or maybe is having trouble acting on them.
Exactly. I don't see myself as an expert on anyone. I understand counseling theories, and clients come to me, they know I'm trying to be a sounding board to help them see, okay, they want to get to a healthier place with gaming. It's their desire, not mine. It's their desire. And so I can help them get to that place just through the work that we do. But it's their motivation to do it.
Yeah. And I wonder, so you mentioned some ways in which you encourage parents to be more supportive and thereby effective with their kids. I also wonder, to what extent is it challenging for parents to change their own behavior that their kids might be modeling, even if it's not with video games? Parents might be addicted to their phone in other ways for work or other things. And we know kids pick up on that from the earliest age. And is that something that you bring into your own practice?
In the presentations and in the practice that I do with the families, that's one of the big pieces. The parenting sessions are very huge because they have to be on board with not just putting up boundaries for their child, but also addressing their own screen use. They have to be the model of that screen use. If they're wanting to have healthy interactions with their kid, or even just have, you know, a healthy device technology relationship, they want that for their kid. They have to do that themselves. They have to model that themselves.
Yeah.
Even if our screen use as an adult is 100% productive, if we're looking at emails, if we're responding to text messages, if we are looking at something within our business, checking stats or whatever, it's very, very hard for anyone to see that as something different than someone looking at social media, you know, do a kid on Instagram or Snapchat, whatever, or TikTok. And so it's easy for anyone to say, okay, you're on your phone, I just feel separated from you, just like that. Right. Unless someone's saying, hey, you know, as a dad saying, look, I'm checking my emails real quick, but once I'm done, then we can hang out and we can talk. You know what, hey, I have to respond to this. This is time sensitive. And hey, I can show you this. It doesn't have to be where you show everything, but being able to use maybe the device or the activity you're doing to talk to your kids about it, or just even engage with them in it, could be another way to help break down some barriers with using screen use. But yes, the parents have got to be on board with setting the example for their screen use.
You know, it seems like every generation has its own version of this, because as you're talking, I just remember when I was growing up, it was a big deal with smoking, you know, with parents trying to encourage their kids to stop smoking while they themselves were heavy smokers.
Sure.
And, you know, kids, I mean, you tell me from your own knowledge of childhood development, but I think kids from the earliest age have that hypocrisy detector, you know, which.
Oh yeah, the BS detector is really high, man. Yeah. They're able to tell some BS really quick. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And that's very insightful. And that's the thing is, if our kids don't have respect for us, or even as an adult, like outside of the family relationship, it can be really hard to say, why should I listen to you? I don't respect what you have to say. It doesn't make sense. We don't have to explain everything to our kids, but if we're able to have a conversation to explain maybe a lot of things, it can help them understand, oh, this is why dad doesn't want me to play games all night. This is why he doesn't play games all night. So it can be just, you know, it can help them understand to then learn to self-regulate and want to self-regulate themselves, rather than it being forced upon by another entity.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's one other kind of social interaction, encouragement I wonder if you deal with, which would be, so as you said, lots of gamers are online playing games with other people, whether they're physically in the same place or somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Have you done any work, because I haven't heard about people doing this, with, let's say, more than one friend together who are gaming, to help them support each other in changing their habits?
That's a good question. And I haven't done any work in the counseling session, the counseling relationship. However, there are 12-step groups that provide that. So there's an online group called Computer Gaming Addicts Anonymous, CGAA.info. And they have daily 12-step meetings where you're able to log into to get onto a call, and everyone in that call is working through a gaming problem or a gaming addiction. So they're able to get support and kind of work through that together. I'm going to be working with David Klein of Game Changers for this summer. There's going to be a camp that we're going to host for teenagers and young kids, 11 to 16, for healthy tech use and healthy screen use. So those kids in that group of around 15 or 20 kids are going to be together collectively, coming together and discussing and working on healthy screen use, not just gaming, but just social media and any type of screen use. So those kids collectively will be working on that together in the camp and then outside of the camp, where they'll have resources, they'll have meetings that we're going to hopefully be able to get together after the camp to follow up and to touch base and for accountability, to help them kind of with this on a daily level.
That's great. I wonder, can you tell people about, I don't know if there's still an opportunity to sign up for the camp, where is it? What can people do to find out about it, or for future events that you're having like that?
Sure. Even contacting me at my website or my email is fine, and I can give you more information about it, jeremy@escapingthe.com. There is going to be a camp this summer in Dallas, Texas, I believe in late August. We're kind of still finalizing the date, but early August or so. But we're finalizing the dates, but there's still time to sign up. Feel free to give me an email, and I can help navigate what that looks like. There is a camp also, I believe, is happening in California with David Klein. That's where the camp originated. And so there may be some spots open for that as well. I'm not sure of the dates for that specifically, but I believe that one's going to be happening, but there's still open spots for the one in Dallas.
Well, perfect. For everyone watching and listening, we'll post links to everything, and we'll keep that updated over time if you want to find out more about it.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds really great to be able to have kids together working on this. I assume, tell me if I'm wrong, that amongst them, it probably gives them some relief or feeling of normalization, that they're not bad or wrong as people, that there's other kids in the same boat and all of this. But talk a little bit about, what some of the extra benefits are of having a camp like that, rather than or in addition to the kind of one-on-one counseling that you do.
Yeah, the benefit of a camp, gosh, there's so many benefits, to be honest. But for one, it's being just outdoors. It's so, I don't know, man. Just being in the outdoors is just fantastic, and being able to kind of do that together and going on a hike, doing an experience together with peers that you're able to kind of form. It's a camp high, kind of you go out to camp. Any kid's gone out to camp, it's like, oh yeah, after a week, I'm awesome. This is so great. And then it goes away, it dissipates. But that's a real experience for a lot of people. And so I think the benefit can be, for one, doing it with people that you don't know, but strengthen the relationships. And you're all kind of in this same boat of, look, I use Snapchat all the time. Yes, my anxiety is spiking because of Instagram. I can't keep my grades up because of gaming. All these things will be at the table where the kids are able to like you said, normalize, this is something that we don't maybe really talk about, of the issues with it. We talk about how fun it is, but it's able to be a great bonding experience because of that. It's also a way, because of the camp, it's going to be an overnight camp. It is a brief digital detox. The phones will not be, they won't have access to technology during that time. If there's an emergency, we'll obviously be able to get in touch with people, but the experience of not having the device on their person, to be able to experience being mindful of their surroundings and nature, of each other and relationships, being able to navigate awkward conversations of what's up, and it's not having a phone there to be able to buffer that awkward silence. It can be really therapeutic. It really can, and just healthy. So it's going to be a really fun experience for a lot of kids, hopefully.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And just for people, again, listening and watching, I will be interviewing David Klein on the podcast soon, and he'll be coming up in an episode or two after this, and he'll be talking about his organization, America Offline. So great that the two of you are collaborating, and our listeners will get to hear from both of you separately as well.
He's a passionate and inspiring leader in the space, so it'll be cool to hear from him.
Yeah, that'll be great. So before we wrap up, I just want to know how people can, one, get in touch with you about individual counseling, if that's what they're looking for. There's not many people out there who are licensed, experienced counselors who are specializing in screen use and video game addiction. So if anyone's listening to us who has that issue for themselves or for a family member or friend, how can they get in touch with you?
They can email me at jeremy@escapingthe.com. I'll be able to respond to that within 48 hours and talk about schedules and go from there. I can also just be reached by phone. You can give me a call. I've got that number on our website, and also on the website in the top right-hand corner, you can book an appointment. You can see my schedule and be able to kind of just book an appointment right there. Again, it's anyone in Texas for a telehealth session, or in person as well. If you're in Dallas, want to be able to meet up in person. But my email would be a great place to do that. Also on my website, there's a contact page, and you can just give me a message through that contact page, and I'll be able to respond to you very quickly.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's super helpful. I wonder if there's any, final pointer, advice, encouragement, or anything that you'd like to leave people with, especially for someone who personally is struggling with video game or some other type of digital addiction?
Something that's a practical takeaway would be go to gamechangers.com and check out the hobby tool. It's under resources, and it's one of the first links, I believe, under resources at gamequitters.com. That is a fantastic tool to help give you an avenue for a healthy outlet that's outside of games. So if you want to maybe kind of cater your gaming, I want to kind of stop for a little bit. When you have that dead space of not having that time, you can find a good hobby that you want to enjoy. The hobby tool is you have different things you can click on. I want a free resource. I want something that's fun and social. And I want something that's local or whatever, or even competitive. Competitive is a big one too. So you click on those things, and then it'll give you a category. They'll give you just a list of hobbies you can do: paintballing, rock climbing, fencing, or kind of build something, kind of a craft. And so it gives you just ideas to be able to then say, okay, I am doing a lot of fun stuff online. It's meeting these needs. Why don't I try to meet those needs maybe in another way, to be able to redirect that strength that you're using online, or redirect some of these things that maybe you're not adding value to you, and use it that's going to give you value.
That's great.
It's a really cool resource. I encourage a lot of my clients to check out.
That's fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Jeremy. I really enjoyed speaking with you and learning about what you do. I think people will get a lot out of this directly just from hearing you. I know that it's a really hard thing to be grappling with. And I really appreciate all the work you're doing to help people. So I encourage everyone to go get in touch with Jeremy, check out his website and upcoming events, including the camp and otherwise. And just thanks so much for being on the Technology for Mindfulness podcast.
Thanks, Robert, for having me. This is a great podcast, and I really appreciate the work you're doing as well.
Thank you. You're welcome. Bye now.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for this Technology for Mindfulness podcast with me, Robert Plotkin, and today's guest, Jeremy Edge, founder of escapingthe.com, a counseling practice for those struggling with an internet addiction or problematic screen use. You can find out more about Jeremy at escapingthe.com. If you liked today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast and our YouTube channel, and rate and review and share the episode with your friends. We'd really appreciate it. Don't forget to also check out our blog at technologyformindfulness.com to get free and practical tips for beating digital distraction and for being more productive and focused and creative and happy with your technology. And right now, if you go to our webpage and sign up for a free mailing list, you'll receive a free guide on how to manage your technology use and achieve balance with your tech.